لا، بآخر شهر سمعنا عن استشهاد أرواح بريئة مثل أحمد عريقات وعماد الحلاق رحمه الله على أيادي الاحتلال الصهيوني. وهدول بس القصص اللي وصلونا وسمعنا عنه. وهلا لما نشوف مثلا حركة بلاك لايفز ماتر اللي بلشت احتجاجا على معاملة الشرطة للشعب الأمريكي، وبالأخص للأمريكيون يعني ذو الأصل الأفريقي مثلا. فشفنا إنه كل الدنيا قامت مشانه. وهذا لأنه العنصرية غلط كل مكان. العنصرية ما في نقاش إذا صح أو غلط. فيمكن ليش ما في ناس بيحكوا عن قصص دول الفلسطينيين اللي استشهدوا ظلما كل أسبوع، هو لأنه هي قضية لسه بيسموها مثلا بالإسرائيلي فلسطينيين كونفليكت، أو الصراع ما بين فلسطين وإسرائيل. وهذا بيلمح إنه في جهتين بنفس القوة عم بيحاربوا بعض. بس الحقيقة إنه اللي عم بيصير أقرب على التمييز العنصري أو الأبارثايد مثل ما حكيته. فبس جهة واحدة هي اللي متحكمة بالحدود والجيش والاقتصاد وكل شيء. وفي كمان ناس خاصة المشاهير بيصير يدعوا الناس إنه من ضد السامية أو أنتي سيميتيك لأنه دعموا فلسطين بأي شكل من الأشكال. فليش صعب على بعض الناس بالتفريق بين الأنتي سيميتيزم والأنتي زايونيزم؟
بدك تعرف الفرق بين Anti-Zionism and Anti-Semitism؟
وليش الناس مثلا يعني كل ما حدا يحكي شيء يأيد فلسطين أو كريتيسايز الحكومة الإسرائيلية بسموها على طول أنتي سيمايت، إنه هو بيكره اليهود ضد السامية.
Yeah. So I can. And this is something that me and Rudy disagree on when we talked, right? He thinks that being anti-Zionist is automatically and inherently you are an anti-Semite. I disagree with that strongly. Number one, because a lot of anti-Zionists are Jewish themselves, and a lot of Zionists are anti-Semitic. That's one thing that I would like to make clear. But also, so the definition of Zionism, the textbook definition that Rudy always uses is, or that Zionists use, is that Zionism is the right to self-determination within the Jewish homeland. This is not something that I'm against, right? I think that Jews should have, and I recognize the oppressive or the persecuted history of the Jews. And I understand that this, it's rooted in Christian anti-Semitism mostly, but I recognize that this is why, one of the reasons why the Jews felt like they needed a homeland and to be safe. And there's deep-rooted existential fears that comes with the establishment and the need to self-determine for themselves. So I get that. However, Zionism was also a political ideology that was started in the late 19th century by Theodor Herzl, amongst others. And it's important to look at Zionism and its effects on the people that suffered from the consequences of Zionism as a political project, which were and continue to be the Palestinians, right? Because their homeland came at the expense of our homeland. We don't have a homeland. We don't have a state. We don't have. So although it's important to realize, maybe not every single Zionist is a racist, because we grew up with this kind of thing. But it's also important to reiterate that Zionism is, in terms of its relationship to the Arab population, was colonial. It was a settler colonial project, and it displaced thousands and thousands of Palestinians, and it killed thousands of Palestinians. So I'm not necessarily against the right to self-determination for Jews. I'm not against the right to self-determination, but I am against the ramifications of this project onto my people. And I think it's really important to look at Zionism from the perspective of its victims, and not just to look at Zionism as a Jewish project. No, you have to look at the bigger picture, right? It's very important, because then, without acknowledging the atrocities that this project came, even though people will say Zionism doesn't have anything to do with Palestinians, but it does, and you can't just divorce it from reality. That's very intellectually dishonest, in my opinion. So I do see why some anti-Zionists can be anti-Semitic, and I've seen it, and it is true and real, and I think it's important to talk about anti-Semitism. However, it's also very important to talk about the relationship between Zionism and the Palestinian population. Because if you say, you know, you have to be as like, if you're not a Zionist, you're anti-Semitic, or if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Semitic, you're basically saying to the oppressed, you're saying either you subscribe to the ideology of your oppressor or you're racist. And that's kind of ما بعرف أنا إلي, it doesn't sit right at all. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a